Folks, let me tell you about my good friend Todd Nettleton from The Voice of the Martyrs. For over 2 decades, Todd has risked his life to bring attention to the persecution of Christians around the world. Now he's written a powerful book called Faith is Forbidden, detailing his travels and experiences. As a special gift to my listeners, you can get a free copy of this incredible book by simply clicking the link in the description below or call 844-464-3043.
Hello, Mr. Kirk. My name is Chance, and I apologize if one of these has been covered before. It was a little hard to hear. Oh, thank you. So I wanted to know either your thoughts on masculinity and the definition of that, or religious, using religion as the objective morality.
Which one would you like me to
Whatever
tackle?
hasn't been covered as much.
Yeah,
Whatever you think.
what it means to be a man hasn't been covered.
Okay, yeah,
right?
let's talk about
To be a man is to have self-control over your fleshly desires and an attitude towards courage and defending those that can't defend themselves, fostering a family towards godly purposes, and picking the fights that the rest of society should not be involved in. That's what men should do.
Understood. So with the godly purposes, do you believe that if a person is not religious, that they are less of a man because of it?
No, I don't. But
Okay.
I do say, though, by what standard do we say them good or not so good? So if someone is not religious, that's going to be an eternal problem that they'll have to figure out.
Understood.
However, if someone is not religious, we have to look at how they act and how they raise their kids. By what standard? We view that through a Western Christian ethic.
Yep.
And so through the Western Christian ethic, we judge what is a good man and what is not a good man. And the Bible is full of great men and not so great men, right? And even the great men of the Bible made a lot of mistakes, right? The great man of Moses killed somebody. The great man of Abraham sold his wife basically into slavery in Egypt. But they also did a lot of good. The best story for young men right now is Genesis 12 of the Bible, which is basically like get off your tail, leave your father's home, and go on an adventure for God's purpose. And of course, all throughout the scriptures, men in particular are called at this time, and it's the Hebrew word hineni, which means here I am, which is God will call you to a place out of comfort and into duty. We see that with the calling of Isaiah, the calling of Samuel. We see that with Moses. We see that with the calling of Jacob. And so we as men need to be called sometimes to not what we want to do, but what we ought to do, which is that word that I love that is being lost in America so much as called duty.
Makes sense. So one more question to that is, do you believe that the modern movement to of feelings and men with feelings and stuff like that makes them any less of a man, or things like therapy or whatever?
I mean, of course, we as men must have feelings, but women are more emotional. That is how they are wired. However, here's the issue, is that we as men need to do a job as society in our families and our marriages to always make sure our reason triumph over feelings. That is largely what the biblical role is, and what made this country so great is that we must have deep feeling and also deep thinking in our life, both of which. And if we're honest, we've had way too much feeling and way too much emotion-centric governing over the last couple of decades, especially the last 10 years, and not nearly enough reason, calculation. And so, look, a man who's in touch with his feelings, fine. However, if that verges on the line of self-indulgent narcissism, and towards what end? And by the way, the number one feeling you should have is adoration for a God that made you. The greatest feeling is you should always petition those things to the Almighty.
And I guess this may be a little off, but for people that have had multiple experiences trying to connect with God or some sort of higher power in some form, but have not been able to find that, what would that person do you believe?
Well, what you aim at is what you get. The first thing is you got to read the Bible every day. And then finally, if you want to get closer to God, stop doing sinful things. You know, I always laugh. People say, well, I'm not close to God. Yeah, I was up till 3 a.m. drinking, and, you know, I've been doing weed all day long and watching pornography and eating whatever I want to eat. The flesh dulls the spirit from getting closer to the Almighty. And by the way, this is just good life advice. Mm-hmm. If the flesh dulls your spirit, getting closer to the Almighty. So it's just good life advice. If it makes you feel good in an instant, it's probably bad for you. And a man versus a boy is someone who is able to say no for the things that feel good but aren't good for you over long periods of time. A man versus a boy is someone who's able to have delayed gratification, not go out drinking every night, treat women with honor and respect, stay up late and actually, studying. People were booing, saying not going up, drinking every night. That's fine. but it's like success comes at a certain cost. If you guys want to be average, then you guys can go be the chief executive officer for your local Bud Light Club or whatever, right? Instead, if you want to be excellent at something, it means saying no to the flesh, saying no to the things that make you feel good all the time. And our society is highly addicted to pornography, highly addicted to substances, and we wonder why we have the most depressed, anxious, alcohol-addicted generation in history. A lot of these reasons are because of that. So what it means to be a man are a lot of those things, and also standing up against injustice. The most masculine thing you can do is stand up against the injustice and the suffering of others. And this is what bothers me a lot, is that we are called to defend women. We are called to defend women that are being criticized, that are being criminalized, or whatever you say, especially in our marriage. And then finally, we as men are not called to go sleep with like 100 different women. That's BS. Find one woman for your life as a wife, take her as your wife, and have a family with that person. Monogamy takes effort. There is no skill in being, a polyamorous polygamist. In fact, you'll end up being a very miserable person if that's the case.
That makes sense. I understand your perspective.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Would it be okay if I shook your hand?
Yeah, sure. Of course. Thank you. Yep.
Thank you, sir.